Okay. Hello, everybody. If anybody's here, I gotta turn my volume down. I always forget to do that. Okay, I gotta adjust my lighting. That doesn't come crashing down. All right. Okay, we're gonna get into this. Tonight we're doing front post, back post, fans, and clusters. So we're gonna do our front post crochet first. Bit. So I've made a sample of 10 double crochet stitches. Real simple. Before we start, we're going to look at the anatomy of the stitches. So the top here, I don't know exactly what they call it. This is normally where you go into the stitch, where you place the hook to do the stitch. Okay? Usually it's along the top edge, and you go into that hole that's formed under these two strands. Okay? Usually right in that hole, the series of holes, is where you put the hook. Like we did the other day, sometimes you do only in the front loop, sometimes you do in the back loop. But standard ones, you go through both. Okay. The other part of the stitch is the part that forms the height of the stitch. We know the single is smaller than a half double, which is smaller than a double, which is smaller than a triple, etc. They form how tall your stitches are. That part there is called the post. So the first two stitches we're going to show tonight is how we're going to interact with the post. So we're not going to go into the space where we normally stitch under those V stitches that it forms a chain. We're not going to do that for the front post and back post. Anytime you see the word post in a stitch, that means you're going to interact with the actual post. You could do this with any size stitches. Normally, you're not going to do a front post or back post single crochet. I've never seen that. You will be doing a front or back post double crochet, triple crochet, double triples, and believe it or not, half doubles. The sock pattern that I'm working on, actually, no, it doesn't. No, that's a different stitch. Sometimes you will do that with a half double, but usually it'll be doubles, triples, double triples, triple trebles, that type of thing. So we're going to show with double crochets. So we got our row of doubles, and then we're going to do the next row will be doubles, but they're going to be front post doubles. And I'll show you how what's going to be formed. So we're going to chain 3 like we normally do when we do a double, turn the work. We're going to wrap our hook for a double. We're not going to go into the stitch. We're going to worry about the post. So anytime you do front post, that means the post of the stitch will be in front of the hook. Back post means the post will be in back of the hook. So front post, double crochet, we've wrapped the hook because it's a double, and we're going to go in the space between this stitch and this stitch, between our first two stitches, that space that's formed there, that large hole. We're going to go in, under the post, and in through the next space. So the post of this stitch is going to be on top or in front of our hook. Let me show that again. We've wrapped because we're doing a double. In the space between the stitches, again, not in the holes of the stitches where we normally would. We're going to go in the space between the first two, and then behind the post, so the post is in front of the hook, and up through the space between that stitch and our next stitch. Now we can pull up a loop, so we're going to do like a normal double crochet. We're going to pull up the loop, bring it up, and we have 3 on the hook, and finish your double crochet like you normally would. Yarn over through 2, yarn over through 2. So the only difference is where it's joined at the bottom. And what will happen is that I'm going to do another stitch, traditional double crochet, and I'll show you the difference. And we'll see how they look differently. So we're going to go into the stitch like we normally would for a double crochet, and do a normal double crochet. And then the next one, we're going to do a front post. So we're going to wrap the next space, go between the posts, go under the post, and through the next space, so from one space to another, so the post is laying on top of the hook, bring up a strand, 3 on the hook, yarn over through 2, yarn over through 2, and I'm going to do one more regular traditional double where we normally would do it. Pull out the loop and take out my hook. So, and only if you can see, there is a difference. Anytime you do the front post, the stitches are raised up a little bit, and the regular double crochets are at the same thickness as our first row. So it adds some texture. Some texture and dimension. So the first one here, that was our chain. So that's going to act as a regular double crochet. Then we took this stitch. This stitch was the front post. So we went under the post. So the post is in front of the hook and form the stitch. The next one's a regular one. So they're going to be at the same thickness as our first row. And then the second one, we did a front post. I'm going to do all the way to the end. So we did a regular double, and now we're going to do a front post double. So we have the post in front of the hook, bring up a strand, just do a regular to finish off the stitch like normal. It's just wherever it's telling you where to insert the hook for the stitch. So every other one, I'm going to do a front post double, and the rest are just regular doubles. Come to the end of my row, and I'm going to count. I had 10 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I got to do one more. And this is going to be a regular one. I'm going to just go on the top of the turning chain for the row below. Oh, we got to wrap because we're doing a double. And I don't know how well it's showing up on camera. It's showing up a little. You could see how some of the stitches are raised higher than the others. It adds some dimension. You can feel it too. If you were actually holding this, you could feel how they're raised. The back isn't really affected too much, slightly. But that is front post double crochet. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to do a row of regular doubles. 2, 3, and turn. Do a row. And then when we work, we're going to treat this as the right side where I was doing the front posts. That's going to be the wrong side of the fabric. So we're going to do a row of regular doubles every other row, just so I can show a difference between the two different stitches. Let me just figure something out. So I'm just going to do a regular row of double crochet. And then I'm going to work into the top of this chain. So that's just a regular simple row of double crochet. So now I'm going to do my chain 3 and turn, and we will now do back post double crochet. So we're going to, this row was regular double crochets. The previous row is where we were doing the front post right here. And then the row before that was regular doubles. So it's every other. We're going to just do for this little sample, just so you can see the difference from the front and the stitches. So we're not flipping over back and forth, so you can see a contrast. So now we've did our chain, we've turned, now we've wrapped. Now we're going to do a back post double crochet. So what we're going to end up doing is we're going to go, and we want to focus on that very first stitch, not the one here on the edge. This first one here, we're going to focus on that, and we want that post to be on the back side of the hook. So what we're going to do is we're going to go from the back of the fabric, go into the space, over the post, into the next space. So now the post is on the back side. It's on the back of the hook. Bring up the yarn, and sometimes this helps if you fold everything in half to bring it through. And then you have 3 on the hook, yarn over through 2, yarn over through 2. And I'm going to do the same thing. Every other one is going to be a back post. So that's a regular double crochet. Now we're going to do a back post. So we're going to go into here, put the hook over the post. So now the post is on the back. That post right there is on the back of the hook. Bring up the loop. Oops. Again, sometimes it helps. I hold my strand, my loops on my hook so they don't fall off. Go in, and helps if you fold the work in half. Then you can bring it through and finish the stitch. I'm going to do the next one as a regular double, and then this next one as a back post. Again, we're going from the back side of the fabric over the post into the next space. So now the post is on the back of the hook. And then finish the stitch as normal. And I'm going to continue the rest of the way down the row, alternating between back post double crochet and normal double crochet. And this is just my example. You could do the whole row back post double crochet. There will be patterns that will show that, or sometimes it'll be sometimes it'll be every other one. Sometimes it'll specify the intervals of how often you do it. So to recap, here, this was a row of regulars. This row, every other one was a front post, so it forms this texture. This row was regulars, and now we did a back post. And if you were here seeing this, or feeling it, you wouldn't feel a difference on the front, but the raised stitches are now on the back. So what I could have done is, instead of this row as being a regular row of doubles, I could have done front post and then back post, and all of the texture will be on the front side. That's what we're going to end up doing. I'm going to do a row of doubles. It's just to show how it could work. So I'm just going to do this is like a spacer row. Okay. So I get to the end of the row, I'm going to chain 3 and turn. So this first row, I'm going to alternate front post and back post, just like we did down here at the bottom of our sample. So that was a, well, no, we're going to alternate front post and regular. So that was a front post. This is a normal standard double crochet, and now this is, we're going to do a front post, do a standard double, and now we're going to do a front post double, and now this is a standard double, and now a front post, and just keep doing that, alternating. And this is just my sample. You would follow the instructions of whatever pattern you're working on, or if you want to make it up on your own, like I'm doing here, make it up on your own. Okay, so that was our row of front post doubles. Now I'm going to chain 3 and turn. So our last stitch was here on the edge. What I'm going to end up doing is I'm going to do a back post with this next stitch, not the edge stitch, with the next stitch. So we've turned, and now we're going to go from the back. We're actually going around the post of that stitch. That stitch was a front post double. We're flipping over, we're doing a new row now. So the previous row had a front post double. This row will have a back post double lined up with the front post of the previous row. The next stitch will be a regular double lined up with a regular double. And we're going to do the same pattern, except this row we're doing back post instead of front post. Well, thank you, Choo Choo. Yeah, I've been playing with the camera angle and the lighting. Oh, thank you for the bits. I've been trying to play with the camera angle and the lighting and everything for a while now. The lighting isn't the best, and my camera doesn't have the best zoom, but it is what it is. So again, I'm just alternating. This row was back post, alternating with regular doubles. And let's see, let me just double check something here. Okay, I'm going to do a regular standard double in that chain. Okay, I'm going to pull my loop out real large and then I can show you. So this is where I was explaining those two rows. The sample I just did here, we had a row of standard doubles, regular, ordinary, basic double crochets, and then this row alternating front post with basic standard, and then the row we just did was alternating basic standard with back post. And what will happen now, this front post and this back post, the raised texture is on this side. It's because when we were doing the front post, we were making the stitch raise towards the front side of the fabric. This is the front side. And then when we just did this last row, we were making the raised stitch while we were doing it, was pushing it to the back. But remember, you're flipping it. So in this case, this row is front post, that row is back post, but the raised stitch are always going to be on the same side if you do it this way. If not, you'll have the raised texture on opposite sides. I know I'm probably confusing everyone who's watching this or listening to me. But one row had front post, the next row has back post, and doing that, the raised stitches are now on the same side here, and on the back side, nothing's raised. Because one row, we were raising it towards you, and then this row away from you, but it's actually the same side of the fabric. So that's front post and back post. And again, you can do this with whatever stitch. You can do this with, like I said, half doubles, doubles, triples, double troubles, and triple troubles. Like I said, you probably could do it with a single. Most likely you're not going to see that. I have never really seen it done with singles. So now we're going to switch gears a little bit. We will have an ad in a few minutes, but I can start this now. You have different color poster boards to crochet above because yarn colors need contrast. Exactly. That's why I chose the black background, and I'm using lighter colored yarns. And a couple weeks ago, I decided to use cotton yarn because it'll show the stitch definition a little bit better for stream. Because I was using worsted weight acrylic, and it would work, but sometimes you couldn't really see the stitch definition as well. So what I'm just going to do is I'm going to chain 11. And then I'm going to single crochet into the second chain from the hook, and then the rest of them all the way down the line. This is just a setup for the fan stitch. Or it could be called the shell stitch. It's pretty much the same thing. And there's variations on the fan or the shell stitch, as there are with other a little more complex stitches. So I got my row of single crochets. That's just our base, our foundation. We're going to be doing doubles. So we're going to chain 3, and we're going to turn. And I gotta look at this real quick. All right. So a fan, and I don't have an example of it crocheted up, but a fan will be a series of stitches that all share the same stitch in the bottom. So the bottoms of the stitches will all come out from the same point. The tops of the stitches will all be separate. That is what a fan is. It's a real basic explanation of a fan. So I've got about 10 stitches there. Let me just double check. So my stitch count ends up right. 2, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, okay. So I've chained up 3. And then what I'm going to do is the third stitch, so 1, 2, 3, the third stitch over, into that third stitch, we're going to do 5 double crochets. So you're going to yarn over, do 1, and then in that same stitch, do 4 more. And 5. That's a fan. But I'm going to show you how to do the next one as we go. Depending on the pattern, sometimes you'll chain in between fans, sometimes you won't. In my case, I'm not going to. Just in this example, we're going to skip 5 stitches. 2, 3, 5. And in this 6th stitch, that might be a little too long, I'm going to do 5 more doubles. 3, 4, and 5. And then what I'm going to end up doing is I'm just going to slip stitch into the last stitch on the row, just for my little sample. Actually, no, I'm going to do, we're going to do what we did here. We're going to form an edge. So we're going to do a double crochet into that very last stitch, is what we're going to do. Just so it's all squared up and even. And after the ad, we're going to have an ad coming up. I will show you how to do another row of fans on top of that. And double check this. Bear with me, everybody. I will be back. All right, welcome back, everybody. Sorry about that. And I appreciate everybody sitting through the ad or the message saying that we'll be back. It helps my channel. So we've got our a row of fans. Again, a fan is a multiple of stitches that all share the same bottom point. So these 5 stitches here all started in the bottom here. And this, oh, there's a glare. The lighting. There we go. Those 5 stitches all shared, all started in this stitch here. So they form a fan. And we've got, you can count them either by the posts or by the V's that are formed. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They could be any number. Usually it's like 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Not always. A lot of times they're odd numbers. Usually because when we do the next row, we need, if you're going to line them up on top of each other, which we're going to do, we need a midpoint to count as the stitch where the next fan will be anchored to. So the bottom stitches of those, the bottom portion of those stitches, those multiple stitches, will all go into the top of the fan. There are ways of doing it where everything's offset, where the multiple stitch, where all your multiple stitches are going to be formed at the ends of the fan, and I will show both of those. First, what we're going to do, after we've got our first row, we're going to, in this case, we're doing double crochets. A lot of times you'll find fans done with double crochets. You can do them with other stitches. So there's our 3 chains. We're going to turn. We're going to wrap because we're doing a double. And with this fan here, we find the 3rd stitch, the middle stitch, I should say, because if you're doing 7, it's not going to be your 3rd. You want to find the middle stitch, and your pattern will tell you this, because we're going to end up stacking a fan on top of the fan. So we're going to find the middle stitch, which is this one here, and do a double crochet. And in that same stitch, do 4 more. And we've just put a fan on top of a fan. In this sample, we're not going to do chains in between the fans. We're just going to keep it real simple. And then we're going to go to the next fan and find the middle stitch. In this case, our fans have 5, so we'll find the 3rd stitch over. 1, 2, 3. And in that stitch, we'll do 5 doubles. Oops. 2, 3, 4, and 5. We're at the end of our row. So to make our edges kind of square, we're going to do a double crochet into the top of this turning chain that's right here, just to keep things square. Now we've got 2 rows of fans, and they're stacked right on top of each other. The next row I'm going to show is how to do offset. So that means your fans are not going to be stacked, they're going to be staggered. So you're going to have a fan here, and on the edges here, since we're at the edge of our fabric, we're actually going to do a partial fan. 2, 3, and then we're going to turn. That chain of 3 will count as our first double crochet of our fan, because we're doing a partial on the ends. So instead of doing 5, we're going to do 3. So that counts as 1. And in that very first stitch, we're not counting over to the middle of our fan. This is going to be our anchor point for our partial fan. I was going to say half a fan because it's technically not exactly half, but it's our partial fan. So that counts as 1 double crochet. And then we're going to put 2 more into that same first stitch. That is our partial fan. And now we're going to go to our full fan that we have here from the row below and find the middle stitch, which is in this case the 3rd one over. And actually, no, we're not doing that. Wrong. Forget about that. So we got our partial fan, and now we're going to skip the fan, and we're going to focus on the space between these 2 fans. And in the space, if you had a chain between the 2, if there was a fan, chain 1, and then a fan, you could go into that chain. I'm just going to go into this space here. And into this space, this big space between the fans, we're going to put 5 doubles. This will count as our anchor point for the fan. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Again, this isn't the best pattern that I'm showing you. It's not a fully written out pattern. This is something I'm just showing as a sample. So we've got that fan, and now we're ready to do a partial fan. Again, they're going to be offset, and we're going to find the top of that turning chain of the edge, because we're at the edge of the end of the row. We don't have any other fans to go between. So into that top of that turning chain, we're going to do 3 doubles, because that will be our other partial, because this is the offset row. Now, the row below, we had 2 fans. The row we just did, we had a partial fan, a full fan, and another partial fan. And then that way, forget about that row, they're staggered. So the next row, if we want to keep this pattern going, the next row will repeat this row here. So we'll chain up, do our full fan, and do a full fan. And when you would do that, you would do it in the space that's formed between the fan and the partial fan. Any of these large spaces, kind of like a granny square. If you're familiar with granny squares, you work in the chain space, even though there's no chain here. And then you can repeat the pattern that way. So you can either stack them, where they're all lined up like soldiers in a line, or you can stagger them so they're alternating. That is what fans are. You're going to find a lot of them in borders and even full rows. You can make a whole project with nothing but fans. They're also called shells. I'm just prepping some of my yarn for the next stitch. The next stitch we're going to be doing are called clusters, which are kind of like I think of clusters as a fan, but upside down. Gonna my yarn ready. So I'm going to keep this sample here to reference to show the difference here between clusters and fans. Get enough slack out of this yarn. And again, I'm going to do a sample. I'm going to do 11 chains, and then I'm going to do a row of singles into that chain just to start us off. And then we're going to work our row of singles just so we have a base to work on. Working into the chain is not my favorite part of crochet. It's my least favorite. I'll do all the other stuff with crochet, but I hate working into a chain. So we're going to do clusters. So with fans, the group of stitches all share the bottom points of those stitches all share the same stitch. A cluster is the same thing, but they all share the top point. All the bottom ones are different. So again, we're going to stick with our double crochet. So we're going to chain up 3 and turn. So we can do any number of clusters. We have 10 stitches here, and I want to try to make something divisible by 10 if possible. I could do 5, but that's what we'll do. So what we're going to do, let me just double check something. So what we're going to end up doing is we're going to go into the first stitch, bring up a loop, and we're going to yarn over through 2. And now we're going to stop with that stitch. And then we're going to yarn over, go to the next stitch, bring up a loop, yarn over through 2. The next one we're going to wrap our yarn, go into the next stitch, the third stitch, bring up a loop, yarn over through 2. So that's 3 there. I'm not counting the chain here in this. Some patterns will count it. So that's 3. And now we're going to yarn over, go into the next stitch, bring up a loop, yarn over through 2. So that's 4 of them we've done. I'm just going to kind of keep it the same as the fan. And now this one we're going to yarn over, go into the last stitch, the 5th one, bring up a loop, yarn over through 2. And we've got 6 loops on the hook. And we're going to yarn over and go through all 6. So what we've done I shouldn't have even done that turning chain. But anyway. Yeah, actually we're gonna start that over. We're not gonna do that turning chain. We're just gonna turn, wrap our hook, go into the first stitch, bring up a loop, yarn over through 2, wrap our hook, go in the next stitch, bring up a loop, then yarn over through 2. We've done that twice. Wrap, go into the next stitch, the third stitch, bring up a loop, yarn over through 2. So that's 3 of them we've done. Again, we're going into 5 different stitches of our base, of our foundation. So they're going to have all different, the bottoms of the stitches are all going to be in different stitches. That's 4. And now we're going to do 5. Okay. They're all in different stitches, but the tops haven't been finished yet. To finish the tops, yarn over, go through every loop. And then what we're going to do, I'm going to chain 1 to give us some space. And then we're going to repeat that for the next 5. Go in, bring up a loop, yarn over through 2. We're going to wrap because they're doubles. Go into the very next stitch, bring up a loop, yarn over through 2, and continue that for the very next, for a total of 5 stitches. Happens to be, that's the length of mine because I have a multiple of 5 of my my length of my sample. So we've done that 5 times. We have 6 loops on the hook because remember, whenever you start any stitch, you're going to have 1 loop on the hook. And then you're going to yarn over through all of those. Oops, that didn't really work too well. Oh, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to chain 1 just to kind of secure it in place. This is a bad example, probably, for these rows. But our fans here all the stitches share the same bottom point. The tops are all different. The clusters are the opposite. The bottom ones are all different and they share the same top point. My sample, and I should have planned it out a little bit thorough, to do another row, I should have made my clusters smaller. Sometimes you'll have clusters this big, not always. But that's kind of the idea of how to do a cluster. Thank you, Grammy. Again, this is just a sample. Sometimes you'll find, you'll see these described in patterns, written patterns, as 2 double crochets together, or 3 or 4, whatever number double crochets together. That's all that is. If you're doing only 2 double crochets together, that's technically an increase. Because the other day when we did increasing and decreasing, an increase is, actually no, that's technically a decrease. It's a decrease. Anytime you do double crochets or whatever stitch together, that is a decrease. And as you can see here, we went from a lot of number of stitches, and my foundation is curved, to a few here. Again, this isn't an actual project. It's just a sample to show how they're done. You're usually not going to have a cluster. Well, you might have a cluster this big. You'd probably do a whole bunch more chains in between, and that's what I should have done here. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to rep that out. And we need a total of 10 stitches. So here we have 1, and we're going to have 1 at this other end. So what I'm going to end up doing is I'm going to chain. So when I finished this cluster here, I did a chain. Actually, no, I did this, and then I chained it shut. So that's 1. And we want to have a total of 10. So I'm going to add a whole bunch of chains in here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'm just going to do this. This is off the top of my head. If this doesn't work, this doesn't work. And then we're going to do, whoops, we're going to do our cluster. So we've got our big old chain there. Again, I'm doing this on the fly. Doing that first one was a pain. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then go through all of those. This probably isn't going to work. It's probably going to look really weird. Yeah, I shouldn't have done that many chains, but at least I get the length. I should have only done maybe about 5 chains, and I should have put a couple of, done some double crochets and some chains up the sides like I did here. But you get the concept that the grouping share the same top spot and the bottoms are different, as opposed to fans where the bottoms are shared and the tops are different. So I think of a cluster as an upside down fan. It's pretty much what they are. Okay. I mean, that's all I had planned for this evening. We did front post and back post, fans and clusters. I could work on my sock pattern, but until a point I need to do some math because I have to alter it a bit so it'll fit. I have to add a couple extra rows, and I'm trying to figure out how I would do that to make it look the right way so it'll work out. So I'm not going to work on that. I know what I'll do. I can work on some granny squares. Let me see. We're going to bring out the good old purple yarn. Where's my end? I think I'm going to do this for about another 12 minutes because it'll be about an hour that I've streamed. I think that's all we're gonna do tonight. Have a short stream tonight. I will be, anybody who's still around, I will be on tomorrow night to do the puff stitch and the bobble stitch, which are somewhat related to the fan and the clusters. They're just how they're formed and where each individual stitch is joined at the top and bottom are different than fans and clusters. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm just going to do 4 chains, slip stitch to the first to form a ring. I'm going to do a real simple, basic elementary school. Well, I shouldn't say elementary school, but beginner level granny square. Nothing complicated. And I have videos on the YouTube channel on how to do granny squares. Got a whole bunch of them from past streams where I've done granny weeks. So you can easily find this pattern. You can find this anywhere on the internet. Pretty much anybody who teaches crochet will have a lesson on a simple basic granny square. Those that are interested in more granny squares, in addition to the YouTube channel, finding past videos, coming up in June, we are going to be having another granny square or granny event So keep an eye out for that. You can always follow my Twitch here. You can also follow me on the YouTube channel, and the YouTube link has been posted in the chat here. It's also on the About section on my Twitch page. I also have a Discord if anybody's interested in joining. That information is also on the About page. You'll find updates when I'm actually going live on the Discord also. And we post pictures of our works that we're working on, anything we finished. We also help each other out if we have questions pertaining to not just crochet, but to other crafts. Bunch of cool things that are going on over there on that Discord. In a few minutes, we'll probably have another ad break. Actually, I think that's what's going to happen. When we go to the ad break in about 2 minutes, I probably will end the stream. Instead of coming back from the ad and then sit here for a minute or two and then end it, we'll just end it right at the ad break. Hey there, Upcycly, how are you? And I got your message that you had sent me. It's all good, don't worry about that. Nope, that's fine. Again, this was an impromptu stream. There's been things going on personally, and I haven't been streaming regularly, but I figured I would get a stream in. I did show how to do back post, front post, back post, crochet, and how to do fans and clusters tonight. They will be obviously on the upload if you wanted to check those out. So I just wanted to get my schedule that I had planned for the month of May so I didn't get totally behind. So I decided to do a little quick stream tonight to catch up on the ones I've missed. Before the ad starts in about a minute, I'll be on tomorrow night at 8 Eastern for the puff stitch and the bobble stitch. Again, the Discord, the YouTube. Sending you good vibes. Hope things work out sooner than later. Oh, thank you, Upcycling. I appreciate that. It's getting better. I will be on Sunday night for Temperature Blanket. Off stream, I am caught up. So Sunday night, we will do, this week we are on currently. So I've added a whole bunch, and I'm liking the way it's turning out. So we're about a third of the way done with the blanket. I think it's going to be a really good length, good length of the blanket. So on that note, it's going to start here in a second. I'm also thinking in my head for another future long-term project, but I'll update everybody on that later. So I don't want to end this abruptly because the ad's going to start. Oh, no problem. So whenever it goes to an ad break, you all have a good night. I don't want to be cut off mid-sentence. And hopefully I will see you all tomorrow evening. And like I always say, happy crafting. And we'll sit here and wait for the ad to end, to click over. It should happen in a minute or so.